Alright, in this video, I want to do something that I haven't seen online much. Often when we get asked about some of the earliest depictions of St. Thomas Aquinas, we tend to get some of the super famous pictures that everybody knows about, and we'll say, well, the most recent ones were, shortly after his canonization, but in this video, I want to discuss the earliest depictions that we have of St. Thomas that date back even to when he was alive or just shortly after his death. Firstly, I want to give some credit to this paper. It was originally in French, and I had to translate it to English, but it goes over just a small handful of the older manuscripts that are referenced in this video. There was another source that was in German that discussed some early manuscript depictions of St. Thomas, but I couldn't translate it as easily. But in the future, if I do translate that one and I'm able to find some new, older manuscripts that have pictures of St. Thomas, I will make a new video. But it states that there are 4 breviaries, which is Arsenal 107, 602, and a breviary in a private collection in London. All were created for Dominican nuns, and there's another one for the Breviary of Charles V, as well as a Psalter processional. Alright, so this first one dates to about 1256 to 1281. It is from Lincoln College and was a set of lectures on the first book of the sentences at the new Dominican Stadium of Santa Sabina in Rome. He was a lecturer here from 1265 to 1268, only about 3 years. And this manuscript is currently the only surviving evidence of his teaching there. It's kind of neat because it's laid out as if it's a student who's taking notes, but it requires a little bit of nuance. If you read some of the descriptions of this manuscript from Lincoln College, they actually acknowledge that the scribe is Brother Renucci, and there's 2 other people associated, obviously St. Thomas Aquinas, this is a work of his, but also St. Albertus Magnus, which means that this person in this image could be maybe either of the 3. I feel pretty confident that this is probably St. Thomas, considering this is a transcription of one of his works, but it's still up for grabs that maybe this is somebody else. Either way, it's a super early copy, and it dates back even to the life of St. Thomas, if not maybe just a little bit after. Alright, this is kind of a cool one. This is a medieval manuscript from around 1270 to 1323, and it's a fragment from the Summa Theologica Part 3. The author, or the scribe, is named William of Burton, and what's kind of neat is that there's a little bit of debate about that face. Some people have said that it's a self-portrait. The sellers of this manuscript said that they thought it was a self-portrait, but the word right before is St. Thomas's name in Latin, and then the word that this little face is drawn in is arguelluso, which is argumentative. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of up for grabs whether it's St. Thomas or William Burton, but here's kind of a closer look at it. I thought maybe that was a tonsure on his forehead, those little dots, but honestly, it could just be the decorative lettering that they used for this kind of stuff, because you can see it on the character to the left. But nonetheless, I still wanted to mention it as not a lot of people know about this little face. Alright, so this next one is the one that I would consider the absolute earliest confirmed image of St. Thomas. This is from the Municipal Library, and it dates to the late 13th century. I have seen people date it much earlier than that, even to like mid-1200s. I believe that was the dating by Arca, but I don't know. I think it's safe to say it's around 1290 to 1310. But we see St. Thomas to the right, and he's with Pope Urban VII. And you can kind of note the larger head on St. Thomas. That's probably from Brother William of Toco's descriptions of him, but nonetheless, pretty cool depiction of St. Thomas, and pretty early as well. Okay, this next one is pretty famous, so I won't expound too much. However, it's dated to around 1320, which I didn't think was accurate because St. Thomas was canonized in 1323, and we see him depicted with a halo around his head. So clearly he's being depicted as a saint at this time, so I think it's safe to say that this was dated around his canonization. And of course we have the Triumph of St. Thomas, which dates to 1323 when he was canonized, and I'm just including it in here because it's one of the earliest renditions we have of St. Thomas, but I think we can move on to some of the rarer ones as well. This one is probably one of my favorites. It's from a French breviary from around the 14th century. It's MS 602, and you can find this in France. I think one of the cool things about this is, obviously he's being depicted as a saint, but he's educating two Dominican brothers and then a secular cleric as well. He's wearing the white robe with the red sleeves and pants. I kind of wish they would make comic strips that looked like this. Maybe they do, but it's a cool art style and also a pretty classic rendition of St. Thomas. Alright, next dates to 1340, and this is from Dante's Divine Comedy. In it we see a group of monks in the clouds appearing to Dante and his guide Beatrice. This specific scene is from Canto 10 of the Paradiso, and if I remember correctly, the topmost Dominican is St. Thomas, the one to the left is St. Albert the Great, and I'm unsure who's wearing all black there. I've heard it could be Gratian. If you read Canto 10, he's mentioned in the same section. I'll just read that real quick. It says, "He who is nearest to me on the right, my brother and master was, and he Albertus is of Cologne, I Thomas of Aquinum. If thou of all the others wouldst be certain, follow behind my speaking with thy sight, upward along the blessed garland turning, that next effulgence issues from the smile of Gratian, who assisted both the courts." So maybe it's kind of an artistic rendition of Gratian as a monk of sorts, but I'm not sure. I found this in the British Library, and so it's worth mentioning, but kind of neat. This next one's cool because it shows St. Thomas as sort of an older man with white hair. This is a French manuscript written in Latin, and it comes from a breviary used by Dominican nuns. It's been dated to about 14th century, 1340 or 1350, and it's kind of cool because it shows St. Thomas teaching a group of students, and there appears to be maybe a saint. I think it's Jesus Christ in the clouds because his halo looks like it has the start of a cross in it, and he's also doing the Trinitarian hand sign, but there's somebody holy up in the clouds above watching. Alright, this next one is a French breviary, the Breviary of Charles V. It's written in Latin, and it's also kind of cool because it's another example of St. Thomas being shown with white hair. So, it's neat. I think it's about the same time frame and place as the last one, but somewhat rare image of him. I don't see people talking about it that much, so kind of neat. The next one is from the book The Life of St. Thomas by William of Tocco, and this is one of the oldest copies we have of this specific book, and in it included is a picture of St. Thomas. He appears to be studying or chanting with a book, and that's kind of popular with these breviary depictions of him. He's usually shown either educating or studying at some sort of pulpit. Alright, well, thanks for watching. This took maybe 5 to 6 hours of research, so I appreciate any of the support. Obviously, there are tons of other depictions of St. Thomas that I may have missed. However, if I do find any that predate the ones in this video, I'll publish a new one and update it. I'm sure there are some in that German translation that I missed, but for the most part, these are probably some of the most significant ones. Thank you.